I'm pretty ethnically ambiguous, so it comes up in a lot of Hinge conversations. A person once asked me what ethnicity I was, and when I told her, she literally said, "Oh wow, a hot mutt." Then, what the heck? Instant unmatch. Story 1. I had a funny picture of me with a prompt like, "Guess the story behind this picture." A girl matches with me, sends a message first, and asks about it. I, admittedly maybe foolishly, said, "It's a funny story. Why don't I tell it over some coffee?" Her response, "Oh no, you're ugly. I just wanted to know the story." And then unmatched me. Story 2. Maybe 5 messages in when she starts trauma dumping on me. Granted, she has had some pretty horrific things happen to her. But choose your venue, woman. Story 3. The conversation went something like this. Her opening line, "Are you normal?" Me, "My doctor says I am, at least when I'm on my medication." Her, "What? This application says we're a 90% match, but something has to be wrong." Me, "Maybe because only one of us is taking their medication." She told me to leave and unmatched after that. Other than that, there was just this girl who kept saying I had a baby face, asking me if I was absolutely sure that I was of legal age. Afterwards, she confessed that she had relations with a 16-year-old boy when she was in her early 20s, and kept going on about how young and attractive I looked. She was 36. That's concerning. Story 4. Matched with some influencer woman who was basically just messaging men to get followers on Instagram. Her, "Follow my Instagram if you like pizza." Me, "Forget your pizza." Her, "Forget you, you Indian person, why don't you go back to your country and use the streets?" Unmatched. "I'm not even Indian." Story 5. I told her I liked video games or something, and the very next thing she did was ask if I was a virgin. When I said yes, she made fun of me and unmatched. Story 6. This happened a few years ago. A woman messaged me. We talked for a day or two before moving on to messaging with phones. She got aggressive in wanting to hang out that day. It sounded like a setup, and I was speaking to a few different matches. I ended the conversation and thought nothing of it. I was sitting at home a few months later, and I got these disturbing images sent to me. They were images of burnt pregnant women or a skinned man. I thought it was a curse trying to be placed on me, so I blocked and deleted the messages. I'm happy I quit speaking to whoever that was. Story 7. I thought your post said, "I'm pretty ethically ambiguous." And I was so intrigued by what level of unethical things a woman said on a dating app to you that it stood out. Woman facepalming. Story 8. She kept asking me what would be my preferred way to die, even after I told her it was not a subject I wanted to discuss. This was within 5 messages back and forth, tops. Unmatched. Story 9. A girl matched with me and then sent this very derogatory message. I should have screenshotted it, but it read something like, "Why did you even try to match with me? I would never date someone like you." She went on to insult my physical appearance, yet she was the one who accepted my like. This was followed by her unmatching. Not long after this occurred, the same girl sent me a like on another dating app. Literally the same profile and photos. She was all like, "Hey, how are you?" I was like, no way she doesn't remember me, so I messaged her back for a while, and she seemed to have no recollection of what she had said to me on the other app. Eventually, I realized that she was just an idiot and an asshole, and I blocked her. Story 10. Not a dating app, but I was 15 when a neighbor from the other apartment asked me to swim with her. We have 3 apartments and a pool, a residence. She was probably around 18, maybe 19, definitely a college student. Unlike most other teenage boys, I wasn't really that attracted to any sexual stuff, and I would rather ignore that kind of content and even talk. Anyway, I joined her as she was swimming. We were casually floating while talking. The talk was all good until we reached the edge and talked about relationships. After I said that I was single, she grabbed my hand and got closer, saying, "Does it get hard? Because mine is wet." Bro, I was swimming faster than a shark that smelled blood nearby. I ran away with all my might. She still comes here every summer and I still feel weird. Story 11. My old Tinder profile mentioned that I am bisexual, submissive, and interested in some kinky BDSM activities. A woman matched with me just to tell me I would enjoy being tortured in hell. Like, okay, I guess. I'm not sure that's the insult you thought it was. Story 12. Please fly over and meet me. There are no liberal men here. She was in America. I am British. It was on the Guardian's Soulmates website. I found my future wife immediately, and she was the only woman I wrote to, but before my subscription ran out, I received messages from 4 women. The American woman was the most memorable, but it would have been a bit of a pressured date. There was also a Scottish woman who worked in a chip shop, so that was a bit of a lost opportunity. I love Scottish women and their chips. I have such a crush on Maura Therrison. Story 13, Ether. 1. A girl asked what my sign was. I said I was a Sagittarius, and her response was, yeah, we're not a match. You probably have a temper. And then unmatched. 2. She was most likely a scam account because she was very adamant about me calling her number and saying my name via Google Voice verification. I said that sounds sketchy, and she proceeded to call me stupid Mexican and other names before blocking me. Story 14. Damn. I thought I got my feelings hurt on dating applications. Yours takes the cake, though. The worst I've had was a woman asking if I had a six-pack, and I said no, but I stay in shape and I like my body how it is, and she unmatched. Story 15. She didn't say it to me on the app. She posted it on Instagram after unmatching on Hinge a few hours before we were supposed to meet for our first date, with a picture of a new tattoo she had gotten earlier that day. God made me for my Adam, whoever he is, babe positioned under my right rib. The Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. Designed in typeface Adam with a Greek letter delta for A. I feel like I dodged a serious bullet with that one. I had been a little sad about being unmatched until I saw that post, and then I just started laughing. I'm like 95% sure she didn't realize I'm Jewish, and only noticed it when she actually read my profile on the day of our date. She gave no indication to me when we were chatting that she thought she was made out of a dude's rib. Also, the Greek letter she described as a delta in the picture of her ribs was actually a lambda. Story 16. I did a speed dating event a couple of months back. It's basically Tinder in person, only you find out later that night if they swiped right or left on you. You get their email account if they picked you. The one woman that swiped right on me asked in her email if I was autistic. Story 17. I mentioned my love of sharks in my bio, and a match said, "Shark guys are almost as bad as fish guys." Not exactly sure what that means, but I felt quite disrespected. Story 18. Hold on, searching out of pocket. Surprisingly offensive or rude, right? I'm British, matched with an Indian girl, and she told me she wanted to be colonized like my ancestors did to her country. Essentially, she had a race play kink. She was not the last woman to message me about that sort of thing. I don't know, maybe it was a fad or some movie about that came out at that time. It felt like every Asian woman I matched with 4 to 5 years ago brought that up. Story 19. I'm sober 11 years now. When I was using dating apps, I disclosed this fairly early to avoid any misunderstandings. After a few messages with this girl, I tell her I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous and sober, but I can be around bars and stuff. It doesn't bother me at all. She says to me, "You're better off sticking needles in your arms because of how ugly you are." Story 20. Oh, I completely forgot about the greatest of all time messages. I had a really large lady with a lazy eye tell me, "I don't know, bro. I kind of feel like I could take you in a fight. What kind of dating criteria is that? Must be able to best me in a fight before you can conquer my body." Story 21. Okay, so I get what you were saying. However, mixed breed dogs are some of the smartest dogs out there. They are usually pretty even-tempered, loving, and have amazing personalities. Just saying. As opposed to the purebred schnauzer that I once owned. It would run one floor upstairs for 15 seconds, forget who was home, come downstairs, and lose their mind at the strangers in the house. Story 22. Can I use one that happened from an application but not on the application? This girl talked about her skills. Said she was a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I made a joke about how she could beat me, but she corrected me to say blowjob jitsu. She was not lying. As I was laying there, pulling my soul back in, I absent-mindedly complimented her and asked where she learned those moves. She told me her uncle used to molest her as a child, and she learned how to deep throat. We did not meet again after 2 more times. Story 23. I matched with someone, but I was at work at the time, so I hadn't seen it. I got home and saw she messaged, "I want to Chuck Norris your dick," and had already unmatched. Story 24. Wasn't something she told me, just had on her Tinder profile. Was something like, "Mom to 2 angel babies and 1 Earthside baby. I understand that grief makes people do some strange things, but that is not Tinder profile information." Story 25. I don't use dating applications and don't date anymore, but in the past, I did have someone tell me they couldn't see me as being at all worth their time. I asked why and was met with a response something like this: "Well, you're short, and I just don't think it helps your looks. I'm kind of stuck with someone like you." For context, what was weird was she originally said she thought I was attractive, and I told her my height. So when it boiled down, I wonder, was it ignorance? An act? Just toying with me? I'll never know, but nevertheless, it felt kind of upsetting. Story 26. That women should never be prosecuted for crimes because there will always be a justification. I asked her, "What if a woman murders her husband?" She said, "Then he must have deserved it. Thanks for showing the crazy up front." Story 27. She matched with me to tell me I was cute, but that her dad's name is the same as mine, so it wouldn't work. I just replied, "So you matched with me to tell me my name was a deal breaker?" Another woman told me right off the bat that I was an Aquarius, and she could only love one Aquarius, and that was her sister. I actually talked with her a little bit. She eventually sent me a long dating quiz asking me all sorts of questions about my worldview. It's nice when people show you how crazy they are before you go on a date. Story 28. Woman whose profile says she does not drink went on a seemingly high or drunk rant about how you have to be an extrovert to have kids because you can never take a single night off. When I tried to exit the conversation politely, she just kept ranting. Story 29. After texting for a couple of days, we added each other on Snapchat, and she told me she was broke and wanted me to pay for the date we were planning to go on. Managed with a cheap date as I didn't feel like spending for her at all. After the date, she kept bombarding me with photos of her visiting all kinds of exotic cafes and franchise shops. I was internally like, how is she broke? Removed her from there as soon as possible. What an act. 10 out of 10. Story 30. She started off by saying she wanted to kill herself. We spoke for 3 hours until she calmed down. She then got really aroused and asked to come over. I said I was looking for a relationship. She blocked me. Story 31. There are a lot of girls that mention they have irritable bowel syndrome on their profiles, a concerning amount. I'm all for medical transparency, but I probably wouldn't lead with that, to be honest. Story 32. I replied to her first message, and she gave me a very short reply with no attempt to keep the conversation going. So I lost interest and didn't write back. Then she messaged me again a few days later with a really passive-aggressive tone like, "Oh, I guess you're bored of me already then. Sorry." So I wrote back, "That's okay. I'm sure it's not your fault that you're boring." I didn't hear back from her again. Story 33. Honestly, the one that I see all the time in women's bios that I hate is any form of "do this for me," "make me laugh," or "show me a good time." That sort of thing just feels so gross, like I'm some kind of disposable entertainment. Instant swipe left. Story 34. Hey, I think you were really cute. My baby daughter has no food or formula left, and I have no money. Would you like to hook up with me for a small fee of $40? I sent her the $40. Didn't go through with it. I can't morally pay to sleep with someone just so she can feed her child. Story 35. Matched with a girl on Bumble years ago when I was younger. Attractive, went to a great school, good job. Almost a unicorn, and I was both intrigued and suspicious, but we hit it off nicely on the app. We exchanged numbers and set a date for the weekend. I had an Android phone at the time. We started texting, and she immediately gave me a lot of grief for green texts. She legitimately got mad about it. I realized after that exchange that she would be a giant pain and a diva. I politely told her that I didn't think we were a good match and that it was best to go our separate ways. She went absolutely ballistic, calling me names, saying she normally dates chief executive officers and that I should feel lucky to go on a date with her, and that I was a downgrade. I was a junior analyst for an investment firm at the time. I told her, "Great, go find one, but with your attitude, I doubt you'll find anyone." Funny enough, I saw her on the apps roughly a year ago and, as a troll, matched with her. I sent her a message asking, "Remember me? Guess you didn't find that chief executive officer yet." Absolute gold. Story 36. Would it be too out of line if I asked to use your cheeks as a blindfold? Yes, this was his opener after matching. Yes, he was intoxicated and apologized profusely once he sobered up. Story 37. Not a man, but as a 40-year-old woman on dating apps, a lot of men made jokes about the fact that I was going to be barren soon if I didn't act quickly. I'm not sure how men can think this is funny. Most women in their late 30s and early 40s who have not had kids yet, but want them, are extremely nervous and particularly sensitive about this topic. I'm not even overly concerned about it like some women are. I have decided that if it's meant to be, it will happen, but I didn't find that funny at all. The touchy subject aside, it's not really appropriate to be making jokes about other people's personal medical affairs. How would older guys like it if we made jokes about Viagra or not being able to get it up? Story 38. I was on a Muslim dating app called Muzmatch, and you can keep your pictures blurred until you feel comfortable. When he saw my picture, he unmatched me after he said, "Wow, you're dark. I want light-skinned babies, so you won't do." I stopped going on apps or even talking to guys since then. That was my first attempt as well. It's best to just be single, laugh out loud.